It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over. Columbia, Roger the setting up the flag now. Now, you can see the stars and stripes.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Knicks Wall podcast. We are a part of the Blue Wire podcast family. I am Anthony Corbo, at Corbo Anthony on Twitter. I've got my man Kyle Maggio with me, at Kyle Maggio on Twitter. And what is going on? Tell the people hello.
What's going on, everybody? Dead time of the season, but thankfully,
Ooh, it is.
Thankfully, every couple of weeks, it seems that we say that some new fun tidbit of information comes up just as we're going to record this podcast.
Yeah, just right in the nick of time. Like, where do we want to start off with this one? We gonna just hop right into the Carmelo Anthony stuff?
I'd like to. I think that's the ideal way to start.
Here it is then. So there, as of like an hour before we're recording this, it's like 5:30 Eastern time on Wednesday. That's what we're recording right now. There's been a little bit of hoopla popping up across the Twitter, propagated by one Ian Begley, saying that former Nick Carmelo Anthony has been working out with Nets players out in Los Angeles. Reading through the article on SNY right now, said that Karis LeVert said that Kyrie Irving organized the workouts. I don't know quite who is there with them right now from the Nets. I would highly doubt that Kevin Durant is there right now. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting. This is a lot of smoke where I don't think there's a ton of fire, especially considering Brooklyn has 15 players under guaranteed contracts already. But good Lord, would this be the most heartbreaking thing in the world? I can't picture Melo being a Brooklyn Net. It would kill me.
It would kill me too. I feel like the Nets would do it as a PR move, especially for this season, because KD's on the mend, and I fear that they're going to do it to continue their culture building of, you know what, we know we're waiting on Kevin Durant, but we have Kyrie Irving. We're going to be a decent competitive basketball team. You know, we're not quite a contender yet. We don't know how Durant's going to look, but for now, we're okay. So basically, if they sign Melo and do the retirement tour for him, that's about as good of a situation as you could hope for. Melo, he's from Brooklyn, New York originally. No, the Red Hook projects. And
born in Brooklyn, but he already did it. He already did his coming home thing. I'm not letting them take that from us.
Right. But
did that 8 years ago.
If they sign him, you do know if they sign him, they're going to lean into it. He's going to have his little retirement tour, and then he's going to leave, and then Durant comes back. Like,
there was already the Diddy song. Like, the Diddy song is out. It came out 8 years ago, and what are we going to do? What are we doing here?
I would just look, we've been doing this pod a long time. And when we first started, I think we were all Melo fans. Like, we were happy to have a star player on the team. And then as time went on and the team didn't perform well, and it wasn't just one person's fault, as everybody always likes to make it, there's people who it was just Phil Jackson's fault. It was just Carmelo's fault. It's always all those things. It's everything mixed. But I would never say it was a Melo stan. I was always just like, I enjoyed the best player on my basketball team for quite some time. And then since he left the Knicks, if you follow me on Twitter, you know this well, like, he just gets like in an unnecessary amount of shit from whether, just league members, whether it's, GMs or franchises kind of speaking off the record about not really being interested. They don't want him. Whether it's NBA Twitter folks or just people online in general, or, people, talking heads on TV. Like, he gets a lot of unjust criticism at this point. And it sort of made me turn into a Melo stan. Like, I already was always a big fan, but I wouldn't say a stan. And now I'm just like, Jesus, man, like. And then he goes to the Nets, and now I'm going to be conflicted. And I know there's a lot of us who, and us meaning Knicks fans, there's a lot who really despise the Nets, especially after this summer. And I never have, because there's no real rivalry. Like, nothing ever happened for there to be a rivalry other than that one billboard that went up, the city's under new management, and that was it. There is no rivalry. So I don't really, it's like the Yankees and Mets. Like, I actually like watching the Mets sometimes, and I'm a gigantic Yankee fan. I don't wish them ill will. There's never been, we beat them in the Subway Series. I don't care. You know what I mean? So the Nets is the same thing. I never cared about the Nets. Okay. But if he goes to the Nets, like, it's like, it would bother me because I know they're doing it to rub our faces in it, and I never feel that way. I never feel that way about that team or about outsiders doing something to spite the Knicks. But that, you cannot convince me otherwise. They're doing that specifically to give him a retirement tour in New York despite the Knicks. 100%. Okay. If he does sign.
A few things here. One, I think that Knicks fans take the Nets are trying to get at the Knicks thing a little bit too far sometimes. I think a little bit is, the Mad Men meme where it's, I feel sorry for you. And the other guy's like, Don Draper's like, I don't think about you at all, or however that meme goes. I think it's kind of something like that, where I don't think that the Nets would be willing to risk, like Taurean Prince is a better fit at the 3 than Melo is, or wherever they're going to play him. Like, he's a better replacement for Durant this season. They would work better like that way. Like, I don't like the Melo slot in for Durant kind of comparison, because I don't think it really does much. I don't think that the Nets in a pivotal season like this are willing to take the risk and make it about the Melo farewell tour. I don't know. I just think that I think they have all the publicity that they want right now. Like, I think that they'll need to find other ways to garner attention throughout the season and whatnot. But I think coming in, like, they already made their splashes this season. They already got Kevin Durant. They already got Kyrie Irving. Like, they don't need to bring Melo into the mix to try to, boost their attention. And, like, beyond that, I don't think that they want to cut a player for that. I don't think they want to eat that salary. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, other than the fact that it's the Nets, and, them signing Melo would be a really good way to get back at the Knicks and Knicks fans. It's just one of those situations where I feel like this is kind of getting a little bit blown out of proportion. Like, Carmelo Anthony has been all over, and August belongs to Carmelo Anthony at this point. Like, this is his month just to, talk about how he doesn't have a contract, and, how he's going to have another All-Star season or something like that. Like, he just basically owns this month. And I just think that he's at the point where he's like, look, he's like, I don't know how I don't have a tryout with any of the teams. Like, he's like trying to blow smoke about the LA teams coming and signing him. I just think that Melo's kind of playing basketball wherever he can play basketball right now. And, if it's Nets players inviting him, if it's Kyrie inviting him, then so be it. He's going to go play with them. Like, this is not anything new for us to be seeing Melo workout videos in August.
August really is his month.
August is his month. He owns it.
Really, it's like 4 or 5 years running now. August is his month.
It's pretty much, I mean, it all goes back even to, like, the Knicks, like, ever since the Knicks missed the playoffs, basically. It's like him hyping up the Knicks in August, saying that they're going to make the playoffs again, or, hyping up the trio of Melo, Porzingis, and Derrick Rose, or, then getting traded in August, and, the Hoodie Melo thing. And I mean, especially since the Hoodie Melo thing, it's just, he owns this month, bar none.
Anyway. Last thing I'm going to say on Melo, and I'm just going to get a little bit reflective here. It's just a one-liner. It's going to take me 30 seconds. This team has been so bad for so long, and we've gone through so much. Like, when we were ready to move on from Melo, remember those podcasts we were recording? We said, you know what? Love Melo, but it's time. KP's here. He's the future. He's the building block. And then we trade KP. And then we have a 17-win season happened in the middle of trading KP. They figured to not be very good next year. I don't know where you stand, but I mean, to me, they're not going to win more than 30 games. I think they're better than 17 wins, but not better than 30, So I can't believe, like, at the time, the Melo years, it was frustrating at times because you knew that they could have been better. I now look back on that era, and this is like the sad state of being a Knicks fan right now. Like, I look back fondly on that. I look back fondly at going, yeah, you know what? Like, I miss knowing prime Melo was there and going, okay, well, this roster kind of stinks, but we have Melo, we still could win. And did we always win? No, we were mostly like a 500-ish team, just above, but it was like just the feeling of knowing like it was like a coin flip every night versus the last couple of years where it's like, okay, we're probably going to lose, but by how much?
I agree with you. I think I look back more rosily on the first Melo contract, like when he came over, signed the extension, and then like pretty much Melo through 2014. I feel real giddy about, and can look back on and be those were some years we had some real chances then, and just kind of beyond that, it just his decline, and then there was all the stuff about him not wanting to take on certain roles, and then the Phil Jackson feud took the limelight away from all that, and then by the time 2015 came around, we're already moving on towards Porzingis, and I have a lot of I really enjoy Carmelo Anthony. I really like him, both as a player, as a celebrity, as an individual. Like he's definitely one of my favorite NBA players of all time, one of my favorite Knicks of all time. But it's I don't know. It definitely I would say that era was more. I don't know. Is it more disappointing than it was? Like successful. Like are you like overall okay? Are you disappointed with the Carmelo Anthony era in New York? Like, do you have just yes or no? Like, are you?
Yeah. I was. My thoughts on it. I mean, some people blame Melo more for being the star and not getting it done. I feel part of that, but I also feel like he was signed to be a premier scoring option. That's why he got his money, and he was a premier scoring option. The rest of it, to me, is if you're a franchise and you're signing a guy to that money, it's your responsibility. You make millions of dollars. That's your job to fill out the rest of the roster to complement the star that you've chosen to sign. So for me, and I know people disagree with me, it's fine. I'm not going to do the whole rigmarole again, but for me, I just think like more blame's got to go on the front office. They're the ones making the decisions absolutely. At the end of the day. So if they're underwhelming, it's your fault. You chose to sign him.
Yeah,
you offered him the contract. I mean, who's going to turn it down?
I mean, Phil Jackson was by far one of the worst, NBA presidents of all time.
Terrible.
And the thing is, like, even those early years when like we had some playoff success going on, it was when you had like, you had like Grunwald and you had like who am I thinking of before? Donnie Walsh. Like you had these guys who are like actually competent general managers and presidents, and I guess guys who work decently well with Steve Mills, like it's, and then you kind of throw that away for one reason or another, and you end up with the incompetence and big name of Phil Jackson, which is basically just Isaiah Thomas retread. And now we're here. Now we're here where we feel like we have a competent GM group. Probably I wouldn't say that we have. I'd say maybe we have a top 15 front office in the league. And they're like showing some signs of competence. There's been some good draft picks, some good players selected. But yeah, I mean, I think that the closing note we can put on Melo here is thank God Mitchell Robinson was able to be picked up with that pick. Just thank God that we got something for those years. Like that is just incredible.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Is I want to say the return was bad for Melo. I thought.
His value was comically low.
His value was really low, but for example, I thought, and I don't want anybody to yell at me because this is just my reaction at the time, but I thought it was very meh, and I thought they picked up Cantor and McDermott to flip, which McDermott they did, but it was. I think they thought they were going to trade.
They thought they were going to trade Cantor.
I think they thought so too, but I don't think they. My biggest issue. This is a whole separate thing, but my biggest issue is. Their refusal to settle for deals with Kyle O'Quinn, Courtney Lee, they had offers, they didn't want to trade him.
Sure.
With Frank Ntilikina, they had offers, they didn't want to trade him. Like at some point, you have to lower your asking price. Like I'm sure I don't know anything about Cantor offers, but I'm sure.
Right, only to buy him out. Right. I knew. Right, and sure that was lucky, but like every draft pick in the sense has to do a lot to do with luck. So it was basically I think that their settling for deals thing happened with the Melo trade. Like exactly what you're talking about there, where they tried as hard as they could all through the summer to get a first round pick. They realized they couldn't. They got the highest, they got basically one of the highest value second round picks that they could. They settled for that. They took on Cantor's, 2 years of shit contract and McDermott, which they did eventually flip. But yeah, it's I don't know. Overall, the Melo early Melo days, yeah. Later Melo days, meh. Melo on the Nets, yeah, whatever. Football season is here, people. It's time to start placing your bets for NFL and college football. So Blue Wire is teaming up with sports information traders and the legend John Price, one of the world's most successful sports bettors. So our listeners are given the chance to make more money on football this season. Go to sportsinformationtraders.com/blue and get the college football and NFL futures play and make up to 15 times your money for only a $99 investment. Last year, Sports Information Traders correctly predicted the Clemson Tigers to win the college football championship, making one client alone $110,000. The year before that, Kurt Presley of Sports Information Traders made $1 million with a preseason wager on the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl. John Price and the Sports Information Traders team can guide you on the best way to make money on future bets and preseason football betting picks. You get all that for just $99 and the opportunity to make 15 times your money. It's totally worth getting Sports Information Traders betting picks. Sports Information Traders has been featured in ESPN, Gambling911.com, Entrepreneur Magazine, and many more. John Price has been successfully making money betting on sports for over 20 years. Make a big return for a small investment with Sports Information Traders future picks. Get started now by going to sportsinformationtraders.com/blue. Again, make sure you go to sportsinformationtraders.com/blue to have your chance at a 15 times return this football betting season. All right, Kyle. Well, the only other real piece of news to have dropped this week is the officially now the schedule has been released. So I kind of took a look through a bunch of these games. I found some that stand out to me. A couple of interesting thoughts. Do you have any games right off the bat that you wanted to get to right away?
So I was going to ask Anthony if you remember last season, not this one that just happened, but the one before. Do you remember when the New York Knickerbockers took a trip to Los Angeles to play the Lakers?
Yes, I do. I mean, there's been 4 games since then, but yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember what happened in said game against the Lakers?
I mean, I'm sure I will after you tell me, but no.
So, Anthony, you said, are there any games that I'm looking forward to? And
yeah.
I have one that I'm looking at right now on my cellular device for November 14th against, I don't know if anybody's heard of this team, the Dallas Mavericks. And somebody may or may not be making the return. And that same somebody may have gotten sauteed the last time he was in Los Angeles. And he had to guard Julius Randle.
Now I remember what you're talking about.
I put together a nifty little thread last night on the Knicks Wall at Twitter. If you aren't following us and listening to this podcast, shame on you. Go follow us. Also, because we have look at this. What a wonderful transition. We have a wonderful giveaway going on right now, where all you got to do as we approach our 20K followers on Twitter is just follow us, retweet and like the tweet, tag 2 friends. That's it. The grand prize winner gets 1 Knicks jersey, authentic of their choice, and a TKW shirt of their choice. Second place gets 2 TKW shirts, and third place gets 1 TKW shirt. Because we love you guys very much. That's it. We just wanted to give you guys some stuff. So if you haven't entered already, make sure you do. But yesterday, I mean, Julius Randle just roasting KP, and it's not just one way. He was taking him off the dribble on the perimeter. He was bodying him in the post. He was duping him with post moves. He dunked on him one time, 2 times actually. I mean, he just let him have it. And KP is, and I stand by this. I said this before we traded him. I personally think he's going to be fine coming back from injury because his game wasn't dependent on athleticism. It was dependent on him being a very tall basketball player who could jump shoot. So I think he's going to be more or less the same dude. That said, that makes me excited because that means he's going to have to guard Julius Randle, and we know he's not capable. He might block a shot once or twice because he is a good rim protector. I'll give him that. But Julius Randle is a very, very, very strong player and a very, very good offensive player. And I cannot wait to see the 50 points that Julius Randle puts up on Kristaps Porzingis that night. I'm sorry to everybody for saying his name. I'm sorry.
I mean, but we got 2 chances too because that is the return of Kristaps to New York, which of course will be. A hell of a sight to see. Anyone who's at that game, like, all I want to see is cell phone videos the whole time. I want to hear the crowd yelling, from whatever section, just raining booze down on this man.
Over under 2 tons of garbage gets thrown at him during the game.
I'm gonna say like under on tons of garbage, but tons of booze getting ran down. Like, God, it's gonna be extraordinary. It's gonna look like a fucking hat trick out there, but with trash.
Yeah.
But before that, we have Kristaps. We're gonna be seeing him again as the Knicks go down to play the Mavs on November 8th. So, I'd be into Julius Randle, kind of getting back in. He hasn't played against Porzingis in about a year and a half or so. So, kind of get warmed up a little bit down there, puts on maybe a light 30 on him or something like that. And then, 1 week later comes up and he lays down a 50 piece. I think that is the key reaction we're looking for here. But we got a couple of, beyond meeting, I was going to say an old friend, but not quite. Again, we have a couple of other interesting games to come before that. Obviously, Knicks and Spurs open the season on the 23rd of October. That's going to be down in San Antonio. I guess Marcus Morris revenge game. I don't know, whatever. But right after that, the second game of the season, the Knicks play the aforementioned Brooklyn Nets in their home in Brooklyn. So, what do you think the reaction to that game is going to be like for most fans?
Well, I think the fans are going to obviously not be happy. Hey, we're not happy about a lot, man. We have a lot to boo about, and we boo often. So I think a lot of the game, that's kind of the theme of the year. I just feel like people are just going to come to MSG and we're just going to be mad that they didn't sign here or mad that they requested a trade out of here. It is for me. The KP stuff I'll probably be pretty into because I went to bat for KP hard. Very hard until he left. His whole time here, I thought people were undervaluing him in terms of the broad NBA sphere. And so for him to not want to be here that quickly was very disappointing. My thoughts on the trade, well, everybody does. But that one I'll probably be very into and engaged in the anti-KP stuff. I'm sorry. Normally I try not to get caught up. The Nets stuff, Kyrie went to the Nets. I didn't think he was coming here to begin with. I never felt confident in Kyrie. He's always been a wild card. Durant stuff bothers me, but I can't really boo Durant because he's going to be in, street clothes. So
you've kind of been on record too, saying that we were, if Durant wasn't coming, we weren't really particularly thrilled on having Kyrie coming either. So yeah, the Kyrie one doesn't really bother me all that much.
Yeah, it just doesn't. The Durant stuff stinks, but it stinks less because of the injury. I was hoping that was the one dude we could sign and just let him rehab and take his time. But even still, he's going to be 32 when he comes back off an Achilles. I can talk myself out of it. So to me, I'm slightly annoyed, but I don't know. I think the fans are going to let them have it, obviously. It's just, think about the reception Kyrie got when he came to New York that last time after the KP trade. I mean, they were really cheering for Kyrie, the Garden crowd. They really wanted him here.
Yeah, because
it was a big spectacle because that game was on ESPN too. It was a big spectacle.
That's right. It was. Shit.
It was. Scott Perry actually talked on ESPN before the game. They had a quick interview about the trade. It was a madhouse in MSG that night. I think that was the first game after the trade, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but it was a very weird night. And just hearing how like lively and animated the Garden was. It always is, but like there's a different air when like those kinds of situations happen. There's a certain like sort of rabid fan environment, you know, at that point when everyone's just kind of hungry for either blood or for somebody to come here. Like you know how it is when we kind of lock in on somebody. So I think a lot of fans feel spurned. A lot of fans thought Kyrie was coming. It was in our mentions all year, but yeah, I mean they're gonna get booed, man. KP's gonna get super booed. They're gonna throw, and Kyrie and Durant are gonna get super. Everybody is gonna get booed this year. It's gonna be a very weird year.
My question is, jumping back into the Mavs for 1 second, what kind of reaction do you think Tim Hardaway Jr. gets?
I don't think he's gonna get one.
Do you think he gets like a video tribute?
Okay, this is gonna be very.
Wouldn't that be great if they gave Tim Hardaway Jr. a video tribute, but they didn't give Porzingis?
This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, and I'm prepared for it because I've defended Tim Hardaway Jr. on this pod numerous times. He should get one, but not like a really good one, like a quick one. And the only reason I say that is because we did draft him. He played multiple seasons with us. We traded him. Then we signed him again. He played a few seasons with, you know, like
don't forget,
if he wasn't drafted with us and then we threw money at him, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Don't forget, once a Knick, always a Knick.
Yeah, for him to leave and then come back as a much improved player, and he still wasn't very good, but I feel like people kind of let him have it too much, considering he was pretty much just a volume 3-point shooter. So I don't know. I think he's probably. I don't know that they will do it, but I think he should get like just a really quick one. Like, you know, the really nice ones that are like a minute and a half long, 2 minutes long.
Yeah, like
obviously not that. But give him like a 30-second. Hey, we drafted you. You know, here's a couple clips from your first stint. Here's a couple clips from your second stint. Thank you, Tim Hardaway. Like, doesn't need to be lights dim dramatic. Just a quick like.
I want 30-second. I want 30-second timeout tribute to Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, and Courtney Lee.
For Timmy, he should. Everybody's going to yell. When we go live with this pod, I'm going to get yelled at. But they should just very quickly. We talk about the culture changing. To me, that's a thing that you do. For, you know, you want to show that you care about the players. And if that's somebody that you drafted and that's somebody that you brought back because you believed in them, whether or not he was overpaid, I think you should do it. I think that's a good move for the franchise. That's why I'm saying it. I think just something quick. But I do not think that he gets it. They're not going to do KP because remember, they canceled Latvia night. You remember that, right? They canceled it after the trade. I actually do feel bad about that. Because,
I kind of do too. That was kind of a shit move.
Because, you know how many tourists go to MSG now for Knicks games? Always, right?
I mean, they're the fourth most valuable team in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of fans, you know, from all over the world. Like, I'm sure people live in New York who are Latvian were probably looking forward to going to that game. And we canceled it. You know what I mean? I thought that was kind of dumb, but I get it. So because of that, there's just no chance that he gets anything. He's just going to be another dude that they announce, and that's it. If they did anything for him, even if it was like a polite introduction, I would be surprised.
Yeah. All right. Well, a couple of other games I have on my list here. Again, against the Nets, November 24th, only because that's a Knicks home game and that's my birthday. So going to be real stoked if they win that one. The other ones that actually matter to people beyond myself, I thought that this one was interesting. Knicks versus Hawks on, at the Garden on the 17th of December. I just really, the Hawks have one of those, like, they're a pretty good model for the Knicks to be following over the next couple of years. And it's not like 1-for-1 or anything like that, but just the way that they've acquired young talent. And, they got guys, even for, a while now, they've had like Kevin Huerter and they've had John Collins and, and obviously they have Trae Young too. And they added like DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish in the draft this year. It's like, they're pretty stacked with young talent. And I don't think the Knicks, young players are necessarily on the same. They're not necessarily the same level that the Hawks players are, and I think even just having Trae Young kind of vaults them up into another level. But I'm just very interested to see that game to like get some comparisons on, where this Knicks team could be in 2 or 3 years' time if they don't, if they don't fuck things up like they normally do. And also, the Cam Reddish versus RJ Barrett matchup is one to watch out for. I just, I have that team kind of penciled in. Also, just because I like watching the Hawks play. I think that they've shown to be a team that's built well and efficiently over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Let me see what else. Well, yeah, there's no Knicks miss this year, which is correct but unfortunate.
Oh, the other one, the last one that I had on my list here is on January 10th, Knicks versus Pelicans.
I would like to listen. I hope other Knicks fans don't do the thing where we have RJ Barrett now, whom I love dearly, and everyone knows this. But we do this thing where we're like, well, fuck it, we didn't need Zion anyway. RJ is better. Da-da-da. I love Zion. He's going to be a very, 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 very great player. And rooting for Zion to do well all the way out in New Orleans with the Pelicans is about as harmless and fun as it gets. So I implore fans to embrace having fun rooting for Zion, even if he's not on your team. We wanted him all year. We all loved him. Just it should be fun. We should look forward to like the fun rivalry of RJ Barrett and Zion because they love supporting each other. And in my opinion, we should be supporting both of them. I don't care if that sounds corny, like we should. So I'm looking forward to that game too because anytime those two play each other is going to be. It's like when LeBron and Wade played each other. Like when two friends play each other, like it's always a good game. Like that's always something to look forward to. Yeah, there's an additional storyline beyond the actual game, and I like.
Yeah, that's kind of why I really want to see this matchup. Just like and I mean, I feel like that kind of thing really started with the whole Magic and Larry Bird thing. Shout out to Mr. 60 Magic Johnson, tweeting away all his lists and all that. But I think that having like that kind of friendship is really cool. Like we've seen it with like the Melo and LeBron years, and like just having that friendly rivalry kind of like adds a little bit more to the entertainment value of the game. And then also like Zion's just going to be an absolute thrill to watch. And by the time January comes around, I would imagine that he is, found his niche within that New Orleans team. So they do also play a preseason game against each other. I think it's the last one, but I who knows whether either one of them will actually be playing in that game. Zion got shut down almost immediately in summer league. So I'm just kind of, I'm excited to see that matchup. And then kind of beyond that, the season to me seems to just be, a couple of retreads, and it all depends on where the Knicks are going to be at that point in the season. Cause we had like by January, you have played just about everybody in the league. And you got all those big, matchups or rematches out of the way. I'm curious to see what position the Knicks are in after, that January 10th game and, where that takes their season from there. Something interesting to note too, that I, normally with the Knicks, there is a pretty heavy portion of the season around January where they're playing, a pretty intense West Coast trip because of various things happening at Madison Square Garden. The Big Apple Circus is usually one of them, but that tends to be like the Spurs have their rodeo road trip. That tends to be when the Knicks rack up a bunch of losses because they're stuck out there playing on the West Coast all that time. But this year, it kind of looks like the schedule makers remedied that a little bit. I was looking at, I took a look at the schedule, and between December 1st and January 10th, the Knicks, when this kind of like hardcore stretch would usually happen, the Knicks have 9 home games and 10 away games. The worst stretch that they have is between December 10th and December 20th. They play 1 home game and 5 away. Like the longest road stretch that they actually have is 4 games, and with a couple of 3-game ones in between there. I don't know how much of an actual impact this will. I'm very torn on how this will actually play out. I think that this could have a potential to see the Knicks, improve their standing because they don't have that period where you can kind of count on them losing, 6 or 7 games in a row, which then tanks the rest of the season. Like they're kind of, if they can stay consistent going into that and they can weather that storm, like I'm very interested to see what that does to their win total as the season plays out.
Because the West Coast trip, I mean, this has been going back over a decade. I remember
been a long ass time.
I remember during the Amari years, like even when we had like a better team, like the Melo years, they were never a bad team. They were always mediocre, you know? So even then, like they'd go on this West Coast trip and play the Clippers, the Lakers, whoever. And I just felt like no matter what, the Kings, the Warriors, they always got the shit kicked out of them. Like every game, like we'd have to stay up and watch these fucking games. And they'd get the shit kicked every year. Didn't matter who was on the roster. Didn't matter if they were the Shane Larkin, Bargani years, or if it was, Melo and Amari and Tyson. It always just felt like every time we had to go out there and go to, LA and go to Sacramento,
they
go out to California.
They get rocked and it would just tank the rest of the season.
They get rocked. The Blazers kick their ass. Right. Like we just never have a good time out there.
That's like when you get 20-point losses to like the 2015 Kings. It's like it was bad.
Like it's always like on a random Tuesday night, the Kings just blow us up. But it's like, what is happening?
You Willie Cauley-Stein was off for 30.
I believe somebody, and I forget who, but somebody in our Slack chat, posted it, but I forgot who it was on Twitter, did the strength of schedule for heading into the year. And I think the Knicks had the 12th easiest schedule this year. And someone else posted a separate one that they did, and it went by difficulty instead of by easy. And it showed the Knicks as 18th, which is exactly the same for 18th most difficult. So, I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to overachieve, but we have such a young team. And if they were going to be any kind of good, multiple young guys are going to have to take big steps quickly. And if you have a easier schedule, then that helps, I mean, that's like, for me, that's encouraging for a young team to have an easier. I mean, it's not like top 5 or anything.
Right. And you're still playing like, all the different teams in the league. Like, it's not like it's the NFL where you're missing out on certain teams when you play. Like, they still have to go up against these other players. It's just a little bit more palatable.
Right. So I'm pretty happy. Like, yeah, I wanted a Christmas game. I think we all did, but I think we could all agree they didn't really deserve it. But I really don't have any quarrels. I'm also pretty happy the KP stuff is getting done quickly. Like, I like that that's in the beginning of the year. Right. I think they played Dallas twice in that week, like the same week.
It's the 8th and the 14th. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I like that we're kind of hitting the ground running here with some really good games, and the schedule isn't overly difficult. So I'm not going to say I'm like crazy excited for the season, because it's not going to be a super duper fun one in terms of winning a lot of games, but it makes me feel better about, like, sort of the mindset we were talking about before is like last year we would turn on the TV and go, okay, they're for sure losing today, but by how much? It's like now it's like, all right, well, we might lose, but we have a puncher's chance.
I mean, the talent distribution throughout the league now, I think, helps that out a little bit too, where they're just less bulky teams with top heavy players that are just going to blow the Knicks out. Like, there's a lot of good players on a lot of teams throughout the league, but like, it seems like things are a little bit more middle focused now, where, the Knicks don't have like 4 like hurdles to overcome in each game. Like, there's no real, there's less big threes out there right now. They're just going to pummel these, this young team into the ground.
Yeah. I mean, My big hot take, and this is the only thing I'm going to say. I'm not going because I'm going to save most of it for our season preview stuff. But as you know, I've wanted Julius Randle for multiple seasons now, and I wanted him because I thought pairing him next to a elite rim protector in Kristaps Porzingis was going to be a wonderful pairing. We don't have Kristaps anymore, but we have Mitchell Robinson, who is still an elite rim protector, right? So my hot take is that Julius Randle playing next to a guy who can really cover up a lot of those defensive issues with him at the 4, I think he's going to have like a breakout year. I think that he's going to average low 20s, like 20, 21 points a game, maybe even a double-double, and he's just going to go nuts off. Because, I mean, he's very efficient, and he's got a big offensive bag of moves. I just think he's going to eat all year, and I think that's going to do wonders for the Knicks. And I don't think his defensive issues are as much of a concern. So I'm very excited to watch Julius Randle just beat up on people all year, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but like you said, I'm going to save it all for our season preview in just a few short weeks. But in the meantime, you know what? Let's get into less of the big man rotation. Let's talk about the guards really quick, because Quentin Haynes, TKW's own, wrote a piece today, or came out today, about Damian Dotson, Alonzo Trier, and the Knicks signed a lot of shooters. They signed a lot of guys that can float between the 2 and the 3, and they signed a lot of guys that can go between the 3 and the 4. And it seems like Dotson and Trier may end up being the 2 who have to, have their minutes eaten into a little bit. And it's when we look at this roster and we look at, it's a bit of an unorthodox kind of combination of players that they have here, but the guard position is just as much of a question as any of the other spots. So somebody's got to accept a little bit less than they got last year. And I just kind of wonder what you think of these two players and what their kind of roles in the rotation might look like going into this season.
So I actually think Alonzo Trier is pretty safe. I know there's some questioning about where he fit in, but I mean, he has his flaws, obviously, but he was pretty damn good last year. I mean, he was pretty efficient.
It was his rookie year, but he was good in stretches last year, I'd say.
Yeah, and so he was really good up until he got injured. Then he came back and he was kind of iffy for about a month. And you could attribute maybe some of that to rust and, dealing with an injury that made him miss pretty decent amount of time. But after that,
did he come back after the trade?
Yeah, I believe, or it was definitely after Christmas. It was in January, I believe, and he had. I want to double check, but he had some issues, and but once a little bit more time went by, he looked like himself again, and he closed the season out pretty well, and I don't know that he's gonna, like, in my head, like, he's like one of the first guards off the bench. I don't know that they're gonna play the Wayne Ellingtons and the Reggie Bullocks over him. And the only reason I say I thought Reggie may have started if he was healthy, but he re-signed because he is really not that healthy. So I don't think they're going to be in a rush to start him or use him all that much.
Well, here's my move with Trier is I agree with you where I think he's going to be, the first guard, or if not the first guard, the second guard off the bench. But I think it really lends to Dotson being the starter here next season.
So, real quick. So he came back on Christmas. Okay. He missed time from December 8th to the 21st is when he missed time. And then the 25th he came back, and then he started off a little slow, and then he finished really strong.
I think that he had a little bit of trouble adjusting with the when Dennis Smith Jr. came in, and they definitely had him running some point at a few times during the season that I don't know if he necessarily looked superb in. But the thing I want to get back to with Dotson is I didn't realize how much better his shooting became last season. Like, until I saw it I know that he was definitely, like, he shot better than the season before, and his output certainly went up. But I didn't realize that he was knocking down 36.8% of his shots, that season. It's from Quentin Haynes' piece again. He said that he took 342 3-pointers and knocked down 36.8 of them. That's good numbers, and that to me is starting to caliber of shooting, especially when you're running a roster out there where Dennis Smith Jr. is probably going to start. RJ Barrett's probably going to start, Bobby. Not Bobby Horns, he's coming off the bench, but Julius Randle is a pretty good shooter himself, but he is not quite, 36% from 3 range. Like, Dotson to me seems like a really good glue piece to stick into that 2-guard spot to really tie in some of this roster together.
I agree, and I don't want to make it sound like I don't believe in Dot or anything, because we kind of all on this podcast have backed him for a couple of years now, wanted to see him play more and get a chance, and he really did last season, to Fizdale's credit. I know we've kind of given him shit for other things, but he let Dotson start a lot of games and play a lot of games and have a super green light. And when he was starting and playing really big minutes, I mean, he was pretty damn good. Even on nights where he wasn't shooting well, he's a really physical defender. He's a bit undersized because they play him, at multiple. They switch up his matchup sometimes, and he gets stuck on some threes that are bigger than him or some fours occasionally that are bigger than him. But even being undersized, like, he's a smart and good defender, and he uses his body well. And I think, like, I don't want to make it sound like he has no chance to be in this rotation, because the team is not very good at all. But, I hope he does. I hope he plays. I mean, like you said, he was hitting his threes. He improved a great deal. I don't know why you wouldn't want to play him. I don't know that you want to play a Wayne Ellington over him. You kind of know who Wayne Ellington is. I think he should be farther up there, maybe 7th, 8th man.
Yeah.
I can't see him just rotting on the bench either after what he showed last year, because he was pretty efficient when he closed the year out. So I'd like to see more of him. I hope he doesn't get buried on the bench.
I don't think that Dot will. I think that he has I think that he's kind of earned his spot, and I think he's going to be the one that they go with, like, above. Because he slots in well, like, this is a team where a lot of guys are going to fluctuate between positions, and I think that he can play the 2 and the 3 like reasonably well. He's not a long-term NBA 3 by any means, but he's shown a propensity for being able to at least marginally defend in that position, like, and he can still get a shot off wherever it takes. So it's like, I think that he'll be good there. I think he'd be a good interchangeable, like, 2-3 with Barrett, where they, depending on just kind of what the matchup looks like or what the play is called for them, and during that moment, like, they both kind of like can shift between those positions pretty seamlessly. I think, to me, like, I agree that Ellington probably is going to be your 10-minute a game third kind of wing off the bench, whatever. I think that Bullock I think that Bullock absolutely can take that spot from Ellington, but I think, while he's getting healthy, like, Ellington is probably the more sure thing there. I mean, I don't want to get too far into the other rotations either, because, I want to save that for our season preview pod, but it's just a very interesting matchup to me, that 2 and 3 spot, just because they have so many guys who can fluctuate from position to position, from 2 to 4. And I don't know, like, I have one kind of lineup in my head that makes sense, throughout the entire rotation. I have one kind of like starting lineup that I really like, and one bench lineup that I like in my head right now. But, I have no idea if the Knicks actually end up going with that, and who ends up being like the odd one out, because somebody definitely, ends up sacrificing most, if not all, their minutes. So some rotation players from last year are not going to get, like, I don't think Knox gets the 25 minutes that he did last year, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, the last thing I'm going to say about Dotson is he absolutely needs to play next to Dennis Smith Jr. and RJ Barrett. Like, those guys are really good at finding shooters. Like, Dennis has issues passing, like, once he gets into the paint, but, like, when he gets to the rim and kicks out, but it's like his in-between decision-making. That's the problem, because he's good passing from the perimeter. He's good passing at the rim, but, like, in-between is his issue. But that's why he needs shooters, because last year, once he had some, Knox, he was finding regularly. He had a nice little thing with Dotson where he was just swinging them, always hitting them. Looked like little cross-court one-handed passes he was flinging. Like, RJ's the same kind of thing. Like, RJ likes to drive, and he's capable of the kick out. He didn't do it a lot last year because Trey Jones was his point guard, shooting like 25% from 3. I wouldn't be passing to Trey Jones either if I was RJ Barrett. But you need guys like Dotson doesn't really dribble. Like, Dotson just straight up catches, squares up, shoots, lets it rip. Or he catches it, squares up, pump fakes, goes right to the basket. Like, he's very direct with what he's doing. Whereas, like, a Trier is like, okay, well, I can take my time. I could dribble. I can spot up. I could do a bunch of things. Like, those two, RJ and Dennis, who are probably both going to start and both are playmaking type players and are going to have the ball in their hands all the time, you need Dotsons. You need dudes to just cut relentlessly and move relentlessly to just keep getting the ball and shooting. So for that reason, and I think those two are going to be important parts of the next season, Dennis and RJ. I think you need to have guys like Dotson. So I don't know that he's going to get stuck on the bench.
He's such a good like glue piece for like making, you know, a lot of these players, and especially a lot of the young players we have right now, their games don't necessarily complement each other as much as you'd like. And I think sticking someone like Dotson to that 2 spot really, you know, it helps to kind of glue it all together, you know. But yeah, we'll, you know, lots of questions still left to be answered and seen. And then we're going to have our, you know, like we've been mentioning throughout the show, we'll have our full predictions in our season preview pod in the next couple of weeks. We'll have some more info on that when it becomes available. Before we get out of here today, just make sure that you guys are following the Knicks Wall. Retweet that tweet that Kyle was talking about. Get in on our giveaway. That's a... you know, we got TKW t-shirt plus an authentic Knicks jersey. Like, you know, you guys are going to get something good out of it for sure. Let's see. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts at. You know, make sure you go follow Blue Wire Pods on Twitter. Yeah, I don't, you know, not too much more else to plug today, but we definitely, you know, speaking of what we were speaking of before, we had Quentin Haynes' piece come out about Dotson and Trier in the rotation. We had a piece from Tyler Marco come out earlier today, too, on Wayne Ellington and, you know, how he might break into there. So, you know, like we mentioned at the end of just about every podcast, you know, we talk about what we talk about for about an hour, but we got a lot of guys writing about the same thing who are thinking, you know, differently and some of the same things we are. So go see some other opinions there. Yeah, you know, follow us at TKW Podcast too. Follow me at Corbo Anthony, at Kyle Maggio, and we'll talk to you all next week.